Hello students, and welcome to the e-learning program organized by Shri Gyanmanjari Vidyapith for the students of standard 9, and we are learning the subject of English. Students, this is the fourth lecture for chapter number 5 of the supplementary reading, that is Moments. Name of the chapter is The Happy Prince and written by the one of the most famous authors, Oscar Wilde. As this is the fourth lecture, let us first take a quick recap of what we have learned in the previous lectures for this chapter. The story starts with the author, Oscar Wilde, telling us that quite high above the city, on a very tall column, and after that on the tall column pedestal, and on that pedestal the statue of Happy Prince was standing over there. The statue was made up of metal and it was gilded by gold from outside with the help of thin leaves of gold, fine gold, very fine gold. And for eyes he had two bright blue colored sapphires, and on his sword, on the handle of his sword, shone a big red colored ruby. Then one day, actually one night, there flew a small bird, small little bird, a swallow. Swallow was flying all the way from Europe to just above the African continent. On the top of the African continent we have Egypt. It's a desertic area. So during the harsh, very cold winters that happen in the European countries, the European continent, it becomes very difficult for these small birds to survive. So they are migratory birds. They migrate from Europe to Arabian countries, or just after the Sahara Desert is over, we have the country of Egypt, where the Nile River flows, and it's quite warm winter over there, not such harsh winter as Europe. So the migratory bird was flying all the way from Europe to Egypt, and when it was night, this bird came upon the city and thought of resting over there for the night, because next day again it has to fly towards Egypt. So that little bird, his friends, that means the whole of the flock of swallow, other birds had already flown off 6 weeks, that means 1.5 months ago, and this bird, for some unknown reason, was left behind. It started the journey late, so it was flying all alone, and in that flight, his journey towards Egypt, he came upon the city and was flying on top of the city to find some comfortable place to stay for the night, and then carry on with his journey. And he had been flying whole of the day, so it was very tired, and very soon it wanted some comfortable position, location, so that it can spend the night over there. So he asked to himself, where shall I put up, and perhaps the city has made arrangement for me. Of course, arrangements are there for birds, yes, usually in the holes of the rooftops, chimney tops. These are the favorite haunts of the birds, where they stay for the night. Those birds which do not make a nest, they just have to spend the night. So during the daytime they keep on roaming, finding food, searching food, water, etc. So then he saw the statue on the tall column and said that, oh, it's a very good statue, and I'll spend the night over here, and I'll get plenty of fresh air, because the column is quite high above the city, and he will get lots of fresh air. And it settles in between the two legs of the statue, the happy prince, and he looked up and found that whole of the statue is made up of gold. So he says, oh, I got a golden bedroom. And he was prepared to go to sleep, and he put his head under its wing and was just trying to find some sleep. All of a sudden, a big drop of water fell on him, and he was quite surprised because he had been flying all the day in the sky, and he knew that there are no clouds nearby this city, and without clouds also rain has started. So he said it's a very curious thing that there is not a single cloud in the sky and still it's raining. It has started raining. The sky, if I see on the top, it's quite clear, bright, and full of stars. So there is no cloud and still it's raining. Then another drop fell, and he says to himself, what is this? What is the use of this statue if we cannot even protect a small bird from rain? And it's not good to live or to stay or to spend the night in the open over here. Let me better find some safe place, so perhaps a chimney pot, so that I can safely stay away from the rain. Otherwise small birds, very soon they get drenched, and then the whole of the night they have to spend shivering in the cold. So it says, if before it starts raining heavily, let me find some chimney pot which will be quite warm. So it is determined to fly away, and just as he had opened his wings, a third drop fell, and he looked up because he was still sure that the sky is without any cloud, or it's cloudless, and still it's raining. So he looked up and he saw a very pity sight, that the statue was crying, the golden face. Tears were rolling down the eyes and rolling down the cheeks, and it was falling on him. So he immediately complained to the statue, right, that, who are you? The statue says, I'm a happy prince. Immediately the bird says, if you are a happy prince, why are you crying? Yes, and you have completely drenched me. I'm a small bird, 3 drops from your tears, from your eyes, and I'm completely drenched, completely wet. So starts the statue, happy prince, starts telling the story that when he was young, he lived in the palace because he is a prince, and he was given all the comforts of the life, and he never knew sorrow, sadness, sorrow. He didn't see all these things, and he was very happy. He lived that way, and he died that way, right? And after he was dead, the people, in order to remember him, they put up a statue of him over here. So I'm here on the high column, I'm on the pedestal, and now I can see the complete city which is outside the palace, and I can see that there is lots of poverty, lots of people are harassed because they don't have food, they are in pain, their lives are miserable. Some people are very rich, they are enjoying themselves, whereas most of the population is quite poor and it's living in a very bad situation. I'm not able to see that, and that makes me have pity on them, and automatically tears come off my eyes and I start crying. So the bird thinks inside that, he tells that I'm gilded with gold. That means whole of the statue is not of gold. I thought whole of the statue was gold, but it's not that, only the top layer is gold. But he is in front of royalty and he shouldn't be giving some wrong remarks. Yes, Raja Sahab ka kya bharosa? You're right. So far away, the statue continues, that far away I see a street, and in that street I see a poor house, and the window is open. I can see a woman sitting on the table, and she's doing some needlework because she is a seamstress, and the hands, they are coarse, they have become red because of continuous work with the needle and thread. And there is a little boy in the corner of the room, and he is having lots of fever, and he is very thirsty, and he hasn't eaten because the seamstress is poor. She has to work day and night, very hard, so that she can earn a little bit money, and then only she can give some food and treatment to her son. That is why, even when it is night, the lady is working, and the boy is tossing on the bed because he is feeling feverish, and he is asking for oranges, but the woman is poor and she cannot buy. So, Swallow, why don't you do one thing? Take the ruby from the hilt of my sword and go and give it to her, because my feet, they are fastened to this pedestal and I cannot move, but you can, so please help me out. That the bird says, I am waited for in Egypt. Nobody is waiting for him, but now he is eager too, because he has half reached his destination and the other half is left, and it's lots of flying for a little bird. It has to reach Egypt in time. So it says that I'm wanted in Egypt very soon and I have to take rest and I cannot help you. But the prince doesn't listen and says that, please go and give this ruby to the woman and be my messenger. Go and give this ruby so that the boy is thirsty and she can fulfill the needs of the boy, give her proper medical treatment and give him some food. So another excuse is given by the bird that I don't like boys, but I want to go to Egypt. Still the happy prince continues saying that, you help me, it's very cold over here. But he agreed to stay with him for one night and become his messenger, and the prince thanks the little bird. The swallow, it picks on that ruby and takes it in the beak and flies towards the street pointed out by the prince, and he is going over the rooftop. He passed by the cathedral, yes, where lovely angels carved out by the sculpture made out of stone, that is marble, and he flew past the palace and heard the sound of dancing, and a girl comes out on the balcony with her lover and says that, I hope that my dress is ready because I have given it for embroidering beautiful flowers on it, and these seamstresses, they are quite lazy. But on the opposite, we can see that the seamstress is still working. In the light of the candle, she is working over there so that she can get some money and she can give food to her son. And he passed over the river and saw the lanterns on the masts of the ships over there. At last, the bird came to the poor seamstress' house, flew inside, placed that precious ruby near the thimble, and went and flapped its wing on the boy's face. The boy feels a little bit cool and he is able to go to sleep, and comes back to the happy prince and tells the story and says, very cold, and then also I feel warm because I have done some good deed. So the prince thanks the little bird, and because the bird is already tired of the long day's flight and in the night also it had been working, so it perches near the feet of the happy prince and goes to sleep over there. Next day, goes to the river, has a bath, and tells, tonight I go to Egypt, said the swallow in high spirits, and he visited all the monuments and all the buildings and whatever he could see new, so that he can talk about it with his friends, discuss it. And when the night came, he went to the happy prince to say goodbye, but the happy prince has yet some small work with her and asks the little bird to stay with him for the one night still. And the little bird is not ready to stay again awake in the night, because then the little bird cannot fly to Egypt. But the happy prince requests and continues that story that I can see a young man far, far away in the city in a garret, and the garret is leaning over his table with lots of papers over there. Perhaps he is a writer and he has to finish the play so that he can hand over that play to the director uh, of the theater, and then only he will get money. There is no fire in the room, and that is why his fingers have gone numb and he hasn't eaten for days. And if he gets money, then only he can survive. And I feel a lot of pity on him. So do one thing, please help me out. But the little bird, seeing the pity, seeing the condition described by the happy prince about the young man, takes pity on the young man and says, I'll stay with you one night longer and give me another ruby. But the prince says, I don't have any ruby now, but I have another precious stone, that is a gem, that is my rare sapphire, which have been taken from India, dug out from India 1,000 years back. I have two sapphires as my eyes, so you can pluck out one and take it to the young man. The bird is not ready to do that because it will make the young happy prince half blind. But swallow, says the little prince, the happy prince says that, do as I command you. And the swallow plucks out the sapphire from the, which is the eye of the happy prince, takes it out and flies towards the garret and goes inside the garret from the roof, which has a hole. And the young man, he has his head in between his hands. He's very tired. He still hasn't completed the play, and because of the cold, his hands are not working properly because there is no fire. And at this time, the bird places the sapphire on the withered flowers that are in a glass and again goes away from the hole in the roof. When the young man discovers that a beautiful blue-colored sapphire is on the table, he is very much happy and he thinks that he has been appreciated by someone because of his work, and he is very happy. He can sell it to the jeweler, get some money, buy wood for fire, and plus he can get some food also, which will make him survive for a few days till he finishes the play and gets money. So the young bird, the little bird, it again flies back to the happy prince and tells the story. And the next day he visits the harbor and tells the sailors over there that he is going to Egypt. None of the sailors mind that, because basically that is the bird sound which comes out from the little bird, and nobody understands bird language. So anyway, the bird, when it's night, it again comes back to the prince to say goodbye, but another story is waiting, and the happy prince asks the bird to stay just one night longer. And a new sight is seen by the happy prince, that a match girl is standing by the gutter and she's crying because she is a match girl and it's her job to sell matches to the people on the street, collect some money and give it to the father. If she doesn't give it, then her father is going to beat her. Right now the matches, because it's cold, she doesn't have shoes, she doesn't have any stockings, and doesn't have any cap to protect her head from the severe cold. So the hands must have gone numb, and by mistake all the matchboxes fell in the gutter and they were quite wet and of no use. So she is crying because of the loss. And if she goes home empty-handed, the father is going to beat her. So little bird, take out the other sapphire and give it to the small girl. But now the little bird, it's not ready to take out the other eye, the sapphire, from the happy prince statue, because it will make the happy prince completely blind. So the bird is not ready to do it, and the happy prince commands the little bird to do as he says. Just pluck it out and give it to the small girl on the street. So the little bird, it plucks out the second sapphire, which is the only eye left on the prince's face, takes it out. Now the prince is completely blind. So takes the sapphire and flies past the young girl, small girl, and puts that sapphire in the hands. The little girl, she's very happy to find such a beautiful piece of glass. She doesn't understand. She is too young to understand that this is a precious gem. But when she will give it to the father, he will be happy and not beat her. So the little girl goes away, runs away happily towards her house. The little bird comes back to the happy prince and tells the story. And then the little bird, the swallow, says to the prince, I will not go or continue my journey to Egypt. I will stay with you because you are totally blind. But the prince says, no, my work is done. Yes, and I shouldn't be stopping you from going to Egypt. It's your desire, it's a wish, it's your life. So go and live your life, right? You stayed with me for 2-3 nights. It's more than enough. Now you go ahead with your journey. But the little bird says that I will stay with you forever, and goes to sleep near the feet of the happy prince. The next day, now because the happy prince is blind, the statue doesn't have any eyes, both the eyes are gone. So the happy prince is completely blind, and now it becomes the job of the little bird to fly all over the city and come back and perch upon the shoulders of the happy prince, statue of the happy prince, and tell him all the stories. So from next day onwards, she sits on the shoulder of the happy prince statue and tells him whatever is going on in the city. So the prince says, you're telling me about marvelous things about my city, but more marvelous is the suffering of the people, because there is no mystery as great as misery. And fly over my city and tell me all the good or bad news about my city. So the swallow flew over the city and sees that rich people, they are making merry in their large big homes and palaces, whereas the poor people, their condition, their plight is, it's very, very bad. The condition is very bad, and tells us about all those dark lanes where white children, their faces can be seen. They're hiding over there, right? And listlessly, that means without any much movement, they are sitting in the black streets. One of the very important information given to Happy Prince is under the bridge, under the archway, two young, very, very young boys, they are clinging to each other. They are in each other's arms so that they can feel the warmth of each other's body, because they do not have warm clothes, because they do not have blanket. And the policeman over there, he is so rude and harsh that he doesn't allow the small boys to stay below the bridge, under the bridge, and he drives them away. Both of these boys, they are quite helpless and they cannot do anything against the authority. So both of them, they run away from under the ark, under the bridge, and now they are in the rain. They are now completely wet, and the winter, it has come in quite now, and the rain is very cold, and in that cold rain, both of them can be seen wandering in the rain, because now they do not have any place to live. So all these things were told by the little bird to the happy prince. Now let us start with today's lecture. So then he flew back and told the prince whatever he saw. The prince says that I am covered with whole of my statue. It's covered with thin leaves of gold. I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off leaf by leaf and give it to the poor. Now, I am a prince. Whatever they gave me in the form of statue, ruby on the sword, is already given. 2 precious sapphires, they are also given. Now, what is left is the gold on me. The gold is covered in the form of thin gold leaves on the statue. So I have yet gold with me. So to all these poor people, leaf by leaf, wherever you see there are poor people, their condition is quite bad. Yes, they are not able to survive, right? And they need food, clothes. So pluck those golden leaves one by one and give it to these people and give it to the poor. A very good line is written over here. The living always thinks that gold can make them happy. It shows about the greed of the people. On one side there is greed, but on the other side there is necessity. The rich people, they want to collect more and more gold. The more gold they have, the more richer they will become. The more richer they are, they will be more respected in the society because of the wealth that they have acquired. On the other side, the poor people, for them gold is out of reach. They just need some pennies, few coins to survive. They work very hard for that, and these very rich people, they exploit the poverty of the poor people, and these poor people are continuously exploited by the rich people. So a very good line is written by Oscar Wilde over here. The living people, they think that everything comes to only one point, that is wealth. The more wealth that you have, the more comfortable life you will have. So here gold is taken to be the wealth that is acquired by the people. So the living people, they think that every need of theirs can be satisfied by gold. So they should have gold with them. So the living think that gold can make them happy. It is not, we have seen over here that though is a happy prince, but the prince is ready to sacrifice whatever precious he has with him so that people can be happy, they can be satisfied. Yes, they can live contently. So he is ready to sacrifice everything. But for everybody, this is not the case. So gold is not, money is not everything in life. There are other things also which can make you quite satisfied and content. But the living people, there is lots of greed in them, and that is why they think that gold will make them happy. So take this gold and give it to the poor people. They can sell that gold, have money, and from that money they can buy things what they need necessary. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, and the happy prince looked quite dull and grey, because now leaf by leaf the swallow is picking up those leaves and giving it to the poor people. So beneath the golden leaves is the lead statue of happy prince, because the people, the court or the ministers, they had put up the lead statue and then gilded it over with gold leaves. So below those gold leaves we have a dark and dull color of the lead. So leaf after leaf, the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull and grey. He is looking quite dull and grey because most of the leaves have been golden leaves have been picked up by the swallow and given it to the poor people. So leaf after leaf, the fine gold he brought to the poor. He keeps on surveying whole of the city, and wherever he finds poor people, poor children, he goes and takes one gold leaf and gives it to the poor people or the poor children. And now they are happy. They are happy because now the children's face are getting rosier, because children, they have enough to eat by selling those golden leaves. So now their cheeks have become rosier because now they have food. The children's faces, it's glowing. They're glowing because now they have enough food, enough warm clothes. And they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now. Now we don't have to worry about the bread by selling those golden leaves. Now we have enough money which can survive us for quite a long time, and now we have bread. Earlier we were fighting for bread. We were begging for bread. We were roaming here and there so that somebody gives us some work or somebody gives us some food to eat. But now we don't have to depend on anything. Now we have enough money. We can buy and bread and satisfy our hunger. Then the snow came. Now we know that the winter was fast approaching. So now, after the cold winds and the cold rain, now comes snow. And then the snow came. And after the snow came the frost. Frost is in the early morning when the dew drops, they turn into ice. That is called frost. Or the water everywhere, the upper layer becomes frigid, becomes ice, and that is called frost. It happens with two sub-zero temperatures. So snow came, and snow came very fast, and along with snow came frost. The streets looked as if they were made of silver. Now water has turned into ice, so the streets are looking as if they are made up of silver, because that's the ice that is shining on the streets. Everybody went about in furs. Now everybody had money because of the gold given by the little bird to all the poor people. Now everybody is in furs and everybody is well protected with woolen clothing, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. Little poor boys are there who did not have warm clothes or blankets. Now they are covered with warm clothes, and they are so happy because now they have money for bread. They have bought clothes for themselves. They regularly buy food and they eat it, and they are happy, and now they are happily skating over the ice. The poor little swallow, it grew colder and colder. We know it's a very small bird, right? And it's not able to survive the cold weather. And on top of that, it is outside, it is near the statue, it's lying over there. So there, it cannot fight the severe winter, and it is getting colder and colder. But he had made up his mind that he will not leave the prince and go towards Egypt. And now he was in love with the happy prince, and he didn't want to leave it. So it stayed with the prince. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking. Now just see the contrast that is given by Oscar Wilde. Happy prince gave up everything precious that was on him, on his statue, including the ruby, the sapphires, the thin gold leaves on him, and now he is just the original lead statue that was made, right? And the little bird, it is the giver of those precious things to the poor people, the poor children, but it did not keep anything for itself. Now it is in such a condition because in this winter conditions, when snow has fallen, no worms are there for the little bird to eat, or fish is also not available on the top of the surface of the water. So it has to roam here and there far away to get some food. So it usually goes to the baker's shop, and the baker has thrown some crumbs out on the street, and when the baker is not looking, it tries to collect those small crumbs of bread and eat it and satisfy its hunger. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking, and tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. He did not have fire, though he gave the ruby so that the seamstress can buy food and medicine for his son. He gave the sapphire to the young writer so that he can buy fire, he can buy wood for fire. But now itself it doesn't have anything. So it flaps its wings. Because of that exercise, the body remains warm and perhaps it can survive over the winter. But we can see that it's not enough. But at last he knew that he was going to die. Now he knew that this is a very cold and severe, harsh winter, and it's not going to survive this winter. It knew that very soon his body will become completely cold and his heart will stop throbbing and he will die. He had just enough strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder one last time. He had just enough strength that he can fly up to the shoulder, sit over there, have some last words with the prince, and he knew that he's going to die. Goodbye, dear prince. He said his last parting words to the prince, because he knew that his time had come. He's going to die. So he says, dear prince, goodbye. Will you let me kiss your hand? It's a tradition, it's a custom to kiss the royalty on the hand. So I'm glad that you're going to Egypt at last. We're talking about a royal prince, yes, and he is a happy prince and he knows nothing about these small birds. So he says, when the bird asks if he can kiss his hand, he says, okay, you are now going to Egypt. Little swallow, you have stayed too long with me, but you must kiss me on the lips because I love you. Yes, you have been very near to me. You have been my best friend over here since last many days. Rather than kissing on the hand, you can kiss me on my lips, so that it's a parting kiss and you're going forever. Perhaps you might not return over here. So the bird says, I'm not going to Egypt. It's not that Egypt that I'm going to, said the swallow. I'm going to the house of death. Death is the brother of sleep, one of the famous lines written by Oscar Wilde. Yes, death is the brother of sleep. It has made Oscar Wilde quite famous with the help of these 2-3 lines that he has written over there. They have become proverbs. Yes, they have become quotes, important quotes given by Oscar Wilde. So I am going to the house of death. House of death is the place where every creature, when it's dead, it goes over there. So I'm going to die and I'm going to the house of death. And death is the brother of sleep. Is he not? Yes, death is the brother of sleep. Yes, only difference is in death you sleep permanently. Yes, and when we are just sleeping, when we are tired, yes, we sleep in the night, we take a nap in the day, right? All of that is just sleep, because we wake up after that. But the brother of sleep is death, and it is a permanent sleep, and people do not wake up from that permanent sleep. And he kissed the happy prince on the lips, and instantly the soul left the body and the bird just fell down near the feet of the happy prince. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue. Now we can understand that, right? The bird, it loved the prince so much that the prince also was not able to bear the separation, because now it's because the little bird gave the information that I'm not going to Egypt, I'm going to die, I'm going to the house of death. And this is not the parting kiss, this is the permanent goodbye to you. Yes, we will never meet because I'm going to die. And gives a very loving kiss, a very affectionate kiss on the lips of the prince and dies. The happy prince is not able to bear that, and all of a sudden in that metal body of his a crackling sound came, and we can understand that heart of the statue, that is the lead heart of the statue, it cracked as if something had broken. What was broken? The heart of the happy prince broke. He couldn't bear the separation of the little bird. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right in two. Snapped. It was so hard that suffering was so hard. He couldn't suffer the loss of the good friend of his. That very good friend of his had died, and it couldn't bear it. And the lead heart just snapped into two. That means got divided into two and heartbreak. We know when the heart breaks into two, it stops functioning, and now the happy prince is dead for the second time, and now he's dead for the good. That means he's not going to come back. It was certainly a dreadful hard frost. Lead that you use in the pencils, etc., it's quite strong, but then it can break very easily, right? So the lead heart breaks into two, and we can say that the winter was so harsh that the lead statue was not able to bear it. Basically, it was not able to bear the separation from the bird. Early the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below in the company with the town councillors. Next day it so happened that the mayor was walking down the square along with his councillors. As they passed the column, he looked up at the statue and said, "Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks." Happy prince should be looking very happy. He was gilded with gold. The statue was gilded with gold. Now the gold is gone. For the eyes, sapphires were kept. Now the eyes are just sockets, empty holes, because the sapphires had been taken away. The sword doesn't look decorative because the red ruby shining on it had also been pricked away. Whole of the statue was gilded with gold. That gold leaf, one by one, were taken by the little bird and given it to the poor people. Now it looks as a dull, ugly lead statue with no decoration, completely ugly looking statue. So just see, the mayor says, how shabby the happy prince looks. So आपको पता है जो मिनिस्टर्स का साथ में या मेयर के साथ में जो उनके चमचे होते हैं, राइट? So stainless steel spoons, how shabby indeed, cried all of them together. Now they got to give voice to whatever the mayor is saying, right? So Haji haan, say, cried the town councillors, who also always agreed with the mayor. They always agree with whatever saying. Whatever he is saying is rubbish, then also they will agree with him, because it's their job. And they went up to look at it. The ruby has fallen out of his sword. The report comes back to the mayor. His eyes are gone and is golden no longer, said the mayor. In fact, he is little better than a beggar. The way he looks, he is not the happy prince. He is not even a prince. He is just looking little better than a beggar. Beggar के statue नहीं होते, इसके हैं, बस इतना ही फर्क है. So the town councillors also heed to his voice and say, little better than a beggar. And he is actually, and here is actually a dead bird at his feet. Yes, it's that little swallow who died previous night because of the extreme cold, and it had fallen near the feet of the happy prince. So now the councillors look at the dead bird and says, and actually bird is lying dead near the happy prince. If he was alive, it couldn't be. Continued the mayor, we must really issue, see the height of stupidity. Yes, we must really issue a proclamation. Yes, we should issue a proclamation and order that birds are not to be allowed to die here. Yes, this is not the death place for birds. Yes, we should issue an order. To whom are the birds going to read? Right, Or even if you tell them, are they going to listen? Are they going to understand you? No. So this foolishness comes from the mayor, yes, who is the head of the city, right? So we must really issue a proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die over here, and the town clerk made a note because he has to make that order, so he is noting down whatever the mayor is saying. Yes, a fool and a bigger fool with him. So they pull down the statue of the happy prince. As he is no longer beautiful, he is no longer useful. The statue is not beautiful now, so it's no more useful. Yes, it's not going to beautify our city. Yes, so let's just throw it, said the art professor of the university. Then they melted the statue in a furnace. Look at the greed of the people. Yes, statue feka nahi gaya, statue ko kahan dubara furnace mein dala so that they can get back the metal, they can use it somewhere else. Then they melted the statue in the furnace. What a strange thing, said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. Foundry is the place where furnace is and where there is lots of heat below the furnace, and minerals can melt over there. This broken lead heart will not melt in the furnace. This much heat is given to the furnace. Whole of the statue has melted, but this heart is not going to melt. So it's of no use. You cannot keep, because the heart is not melted. It has not become one with the rest of the material. So that heart is picked up and it is thrown out. We must throw it away. So he threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. So at the end, poetic justice is made by Oscar Wilde. They had thrown the statue, the dead body of the little swallow in the heap of garbage over there, and it is the same point and place where the heart of the happy prince, which was not melting with the rest of the metal, that was also thrown. So at the end we see that the little swallow and the happy prince, who loved each other so much, even when people desired to separate them, at the end there is poetic justice, and now the heart of the happy prince is just, yes, it's been thrown, but it's lying just near the dead body of the little swallow. So they threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. Now we have some ending words written after the story. Bring me the two most precious things in the city, said God to one of his angels. And the angel brought him the leaden heart and the dead bird. Most precious things. The lead heart was brought, and the dead bird was also brought in front of the God. And God says, you are a very good angel because you have picked right. You have rightly chosen. And in the garden of paradise, that means heaven, in the garden of paradise, this little bird will sing forever. That means the little bird, it has become immortal, and it has found a place in heaven because of the good deeds that it had done in its small life. And in the city, in my city of gold, that means everything is very, very precious in the heaven, and there is actually a golden city over there in heaven. And happy prince, everybody will praise the happy prince, because not while he was living, when he was alive, he did not do any good deed, but he did a very good deed, lots and lots of good deed. He sacrificed whatever he had, and thus he has achieved a rightful place in the heaven, and everybody will praise him in this heaven, and this little swallow will become immortal, and he will always sing in heaven. So students, we come to an end of today's lecture plus chapter number 5, that is Happy Prince. Thank you, students.